Nigel Dodd, Professor of Sociology here at LSE and author of The Social Life of Money. You don't like money very much, do you? If you were at a party and money was in the corner, you'd shun it. You certainly wouldn't ask money out for a dance, would you? What have you got against money?
I adore money. I've been researching money since 1987. The problem with my career is that when I was initially looking at money, I was remember 1987, I was seen as a bit of a Thatcherite, and I was only interested in finance and banking and so on. So, and the world has sort of come around to my way of thinking, and I was always having to persuade people that money's far more social and interesting and cuddly, actually, than people imagine.
But if you want to understand money, it seems to me you need to have an underlying philosophy. It seems to me that your view of money stems from your view of society. I think it was Simmel who said money is a claim on society.
Yes.
So is actually money just a route into having a position on the way we should organise ourselves? And therefore it's in a way a secondary consequence, as it were, of a philosophy?
Well, for me, it's always been a route into understanding fundamental questions about society, and my conviction has always been to use money as a vehicle for exploring interesting social, political and philosophical questions. And I do think the way that money is organised in any society or culture is a very deep reflection of the way in which it sees itself. So I think it's exactly the right thing for a sociologist to be looking at. I mean, I'm just asking a different set of questions than, say, an economist. I'm not particularly interested in organising money as a kind of efficient mechanism for payments. I'm more interested in what it tells us about ourselves.
But because you have a view about what we are, the betterment of society,
right,
sensitivity to injustice, you end up being quite critical about the way in which money is deployed. Whereas others might say, well, actually, our philosophy is rooted in libertarianism. Our philosophy is rooted in liberty. So we're quite relaxed about how it's deployed.
Well, what I'm seeing isn't so much a kind of a unified conception of money. Actually, what I'm seeing is the opposite. What I'm seeing is that unified conception of money, which didn't last very long. You could call it the neoliberal conception, if you like. That's shattering now, and what's emerging is a whole plurality of different conceptions of how we might organise money. So if you were to, say, contrast Bitcoin to the Bristol pound, both emerging forms of money. Obviously Bitcoin is the big story, but the Bristol pound is equally an interesting story. They come from very, very different political philosophies.
But Bitcoin is a case in point, isn't it? Because if we don't address underlying power structures, we can create a new system, part of the monetary utopia you mentioned a moment ago, and we'll end up replicating original power imbalances.
Yep, which is exactly what's happening with Bitcoin. However, money is always contradictory, and Bitcoin is, on the one hand, highly centralized, and it does resemble almost like a nation state on acid. But on the other hand, it's driven and sustained by a real kind of anarchist agenda, which is highly progressive. And Bitcoin's both of those things.
Where is it going? I mean, John Kay, colleague, says this is just cranks.
Yeah,
I think he says.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm not sure if he's talking about you personally, but the monetary utopians, I suppose implied is we've seen a lot of this in the past, we're going to see a lot of it in the future. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Where do you think it's going?
I think John Kay is slightly unfair. I mean, I think there are a lot of cranks in monetary utopianism. There always has been. I mean, it's a wonderful history to look through all the way back to all the various thinkers that have reinvented the monetary system, from engineers to physicists to all kinds of people. But I think there is a genuine grassroots movement now. I think people have turned the corner after 2008, and there's a genuine I think disbelief now in that money is simply one thing.
But what does that mean? I mean, in 10 or 15 years, what does it mean? Does it mean there'll be non-monetary means of compensation as a matter of course? Will we be, as it were, hugging each other? I think one of the proposals is that.
I hope so.
But what does it mean?
Well,
understand the generality. What does it mean in practice?
Oh, I think in practice it means that we'll be paying by very, very different means. I think we'll be paying more by mobile phone, for example. So I think what that means is actually hugely significant. I can see that the banks will have much less to do with our payment systems. We won't be using plastic cards. We'll be waving our phones, not waving our cards at the oyster on the London Tube.
But it'll all be backed in the end by a notional commitment to something called money. We'll still get pay slips,
yes,
chaps and so on.
But we're managing to get away from the idea that money has to be backed by banks, it has to be backed by a central bank, it has to be backed by a state, it has to be backed by something like gold. What we're beginning to understand is that money is a social process, and what it has to be backed by is social values and the willingness of people to circulate something which they call valuable. And there's a whole raft of different ways in which that can be done, and that's what's exciting. So what we face is a future where there are many, many different forms of money.
You've come here, I'm not paying you. How should I pay you in the utopia you're seeking to design for giving up your time to submit yourself to this?
Oh, I get
a dance, a hug,
a hug would be wonderful.
Nigel Dodd, thank you very much for submitting yourself to the Gearty grilling.
Pleasure.